So yeah, let's start with this fourth learning session. This one is going to cover not one, but three palettes, Bounties palette, Chill Bounties palette, and Tips palette. And it was prepared by my colleagues, Hector and Arthur, and myself, Iker Alustiza. So what is the objective of this learning session? Again, share a high-level overview of these three palettes, technical information, how to use them, why they are interesting. Maybe today we cannot go so much into detail or in depth with them because they are three instead of one, but I think we still can have a good understanding on how they work and why are they useful at the end of this session. And also interesting is that with these three palettes, together with the Treasury palette, Democracy palette, and Collective palette last week, they complete the package of palettes for the governance version 1 scheme. So how we are going to do this? So the agenda, we will start with a motivation on why these three palettes are interesting or why we use them. Then we go for bounties and chill bounties, a bit of terminology, overview, and life cycle of bounties. Then we move to tips palette, also with a bit of terminology and a very high-level overview of what a tip is and how they work. And then from that moment, Hector will take control, and he will show you first how these palettes are used in Polkadot and Kusama ecosystems, together with a demo. For example, how to create a bounty and how the whole life cycle actually works in reality. Arthur is going to give you a deeper dive into code walkthrough and to see how these palettes work. And that's it. So let's start with the motivation. The main idea here is to extend the Treasury palette with these three palettes that I mentioned. And in concrete is to be able to use more efficiently the Treasury funds, the funds that the Treasury has. So for that, these three palettes were defined that are tightly coupled with Treasury palette. In more colloquial terms, it means that these three palettes basically depend on the Treasury palette to function. The first one, as I mentioned, is the Bounties palette. This one allows the council to rely on this role of the curator. This is the keyword here, curator. So the council can rely on curators for the completion of proposals, of tasks that are good for the ecosystem. So basically, they don't need to take care of if the proposal is properly worked on, advanced, but they will put all this effort into the shoulders of the curator. The Chill Bounty palette is just gives a higher level of flexibility to curators in terms of how to complete bounties, how to manage them. So somehow it lies on top of Bounties palette. And then finally, the Tips palette. This palette makes possible to tip accounts for contributions in the ecosystem. And usually they are small contributions. For example, I don't know, translating a video about Polkadot to a certain language. So let's start with the bounties and chill bounties terminology. The first one, I think it's nothing special, is the bounty proposal, right? It's a proposal to reward someone after the completion of a certain task. And this is rewarded, the funds come from the Treasury, as I said. Then we have the proposer, who is the account that's proposing the bounty, simple. But now we have the key concept here, the key terminology, is the key term is the curator, which is the account managing the bounty and assigning the payout address. So the curator says, this address, this group of people or this person worked on this bounty, and they are the ones who are supposed to receive the reward, the bounty value. So that's the most important concept here. Of course, to incentivize the curator, we have the curator fee, which is a little amount, well, little or not little, an amount of the bounty, of the reward that is reserved for the curator when the bounty is awarded, it's finished. And then the rest is the bounty value, which is the amount that is paid to the payout address if the bounty is completed, is rewarded. And this is to be set by the curator. Okay, so after the terminology, very high-level overview of the bounties roles. Important thing, first one is that any account can be the proposer. So any account can create a bounty proposal. And with that, they have to provide a description of the bounty proposal. Usually this is a URL to a web page. They propose also an account as a curator. Just propose it. No, it's not going to be still assigned. And also the reward, the amount that this bounty should pay if it is completed. Then we have the council. If you remember from last week, the collective palette. Here the council plays a big role in this bounties palette because they can assign or unassign a curator, and they can also approve or reject a bounty proposal. They do this, if you remember from last week, with these origins and how this works. For the positive case, when, for example, a curator is assigned or a bounty proposal is approved, it is done by approved origin, which implies it needs the support of 3 out of 5 parts or proportion of the council to pass. But in the negative side, it just needs more than half of the council to vote to reject a proposal, for example, and that's how the council interact with the bounties palette. And finally, of course, we have the curator. The curator, they can accept or reject the role. They are not forced to take the role, of course. They can extend the bounty period. Usually bounties are around 90 days, and this can be extended if the curator says, okay, we need more time or something happened, it has to be extended. And the most important role or action by the curator is award the bounty. Basically, they say, okay, now this bounty is done. It has been done by this group of people. They are controlling this account, and we are going to award the bounty to this account, the payout address. Nice. So now we have this diagram here explaining the bounties life cycle, also from a high level. Here, in white, we have the calls that are somehow implying the actions and how these calls change the status of the bounty. So these rectangles represent different status of a bounty in the life cycle. We start, of course, with the proposed bounty that anyone can do this call. And when this happens, the bounty is proposed. Now the council will vote to either close the bounty, so the bounty is canceled and that's it, nothing else happens, or approve the bounty with, as I said, 3 out of 5 proportion. And if this happens, then the bounty goes to a status approved. If you remember from Treasury palette, the first learning session, there is this spending funds period or funding period, I think. Yeah, funding period. So for the proposal to become funded, it has to wait to the next funding period of the Treasury. When this happens, then the proposal is ready to, or the bounty, sorry, is ready to get the curator. So the council either taking the curator proposed by the proposer or another curator, they will start voting on a curator to be assigned to this bounty. If more than 3 out of 5 have consensus about this, the curator is proposed, and now the curator can accept this role or they can reject, and we will come back to this process. Assuming that they accept, that now is when the bounty is actually active. So this is the time when the bounty or the task associated to the bounty is worked, is progress. Of course, this will happen off chain, whatever the bounty is, but this is when the actual work happened during this status. It's interesting to say that if the curator is not doing their job or they think they don't want to do their job, they can also unassign the curator in this phase. But okay, if everything is okay, the bounty, the task associated to the bounty is completed, the curator is happy with that, they will call the award bounty call. So the bounty is pending the payout. And in this case, the payout address can claim the bounty and say, okay, give me the money, and the bounty is paid. Of course, in this case, the council can say, no, there is something wrong with the curator, there is something wrong with this bounty. They can close the bounty with more than half agreement, and the bounty is again cancelled. Also, if the payout address, they don't claim the bounty, the reward, the bounty can also be canceled by the console. But yeah, that's very quickly how the bounties work. Let's move on to child bounties. So basically what child bounties does is with child bounties, curators can divide the main bounty into a smaller pieces of work that can be maybe made in parallel. So for example, imagine that the bounty is about creating a web page for XCM. The whole bounty is just the web page for XCM, and the child bounties can be creating for example, one child bounty will be designing the web page, the other one the front end, the other one the back end. So you have these child bounties in parallel coming from the main bounty, the original bounty, which is creating a web page for XCM. Interesting to say is that these child bounties are created during the active phase. So here is the only moment where they can be created. So, and I have it here, and they are created by this call at child bounty that can only be called by the curator of the main bounty. And interesting also is that child bounties, they have their own curator, the child curator, their own lifecycle, and their own value associated to them. Actually, this is the lifecycle of child bounties. If you have a look to this diagram, you can see it is basically the same as this left side of this diagram. So this means that somehow the child bounty the process is like a nested life cycle inside the main life cycle of a bounty. So you are nesting the child bounty life cycle inside with the same status, or basically the same status, but with some different actors playing or making the actions to go from one status to the other one. For example, here it starts with a child bounty, as I said, called by the parent curator. And now to propose a child curator for the child bounty, it is done by the parent curator, not by the council. Interesting point. The rest is the same. Again, the active when the child bounty is supposed to be worked. And here to award the child bounty, it can be either the child curator of the one assigned to this child bounty, or also the parent curator of the main bounty. And also it can be closed by the parent curator or the council if there is something wrong with this child bounty. And that's it. That's how the child bounty is somehow worked or nested into the main life cycle of a bounty. So this is it, quite quickly for child bounties and bounties. Now let's move on to tips palette with a bit of terminology. The main point, the interesting point here is the concept of tipping for this palette, which is, as you can see, the process of gathering individual amounts to make a tip, and then taking the median of this amount to be transferred again from the treasury. So we are using again the treasury funds for this palette from the treasury to a certain beneficiary account. There is a tip reason, just why this act deserves a tip. Also very interesting is the tippers concept, is the setup of accounts that are allowed to use treasury funds to pay tips, because tips are paid, as I said, from the treasury, not like individually. In principle, the tippers can be any set of accounts in a straight runtime, but for Polkadot and Kusama, currently we have the tippers is the same as the council. This may change in the future with the new governance and so on, but yes, but now there is one-to-one correspondence with the council in Polkadot and Kusama and the tipper set in the tips palette. Another interesting role here is the finder. The finder is basically the account that is reporting that reason for the tip. And to incentivize tips in the ecosystem, we have the finder's fee, which is a small proportion of the amount of the tip is going to be assigned to the reporter, to the finder. So high-level overview of tips, the roles involved and the workflow. Similar to bounties, any account can create a tip, and this is done by the report awesome. That's the name of the call, report awesome call. And with this call, any account can report something worthy of a tip. So anyone can be the finder, and the finder has to set the reason why this deserves a tip and who should get the tip, the account to get the tip. As you can see here, there is no value, there is no amount, because the finder doesn't choose the amount. This is done by the tippers. So interesting here is that the tipper set, which is the council in Polkadot and Kusama, they can independently decide on these three things. First, they independently means that they are not like, as in before, like voting for a specific outcome. First, they will say with the same call, they will say if the reason that is reported here is worth of a tip, and also they will assign an amount. So tippers, each of the tippers, they can set which is the interest, like the convenient amount for them. So one of the tipper set will say, okay, I think this deserves 100 dots, but the other one will say, no, I think this deserves 200 dots. So they do this process independently. And also as a bonus, they can also create tips themselves with a reason and a who, but there is no finder's fee in this case because it's part of the tipper set. And with this, then we have that if a majority of the tippers endorse a tip, so if a majority, they find the reason is worth and they assign an amount. As I said before, the tip value, what is going to be the tip, is the median of all the tips assigned by the tippers. And then 80% of this tip is going to be assigned to the who account from the report awesome parameter, and 20% remaining is going to be assigned to the finder account as finder's fee. Well, interesting to say is that this 80-20 is Polkadot and Kusama. Of course, it's a runtime parameter that can change, but basically that's the idea here. I mean, there are other details that I didn't mention. Maybe you will see them now during the demo or the code walkthrough, but I think that's the most important part here to understand why tips are interesting and how they work and how they are used. And that's it. That's it for this initial part. Now Hector will take control and he will show you how these palettes are used in Polkadot and Kusama, and also show you the demo to do some bounties and some tips. So I will stop sharing now. And it is all yours, Hector.
Okay, thank you, Iker. All right. Please let me know when you can see my screen. I think you do now. Okay, so basically the idea is to do like a review about how these light palettes are being implemented in reality, right? What are like the tools that most of the time the people interact with, including users, tippers, right? Like builders that want to interact with all these like possibilities to basically build, right? Or to be like granted. And also from the council perspective, okay, something to mention, which I believe it makes sense, is that right now we are going to rely a lot of this process on the council, which is basically a role that will disappear very soon because of governance V2. But I think that anyway is very useful to show like another real example of the collectives palette, right, being like included in all this process. So coming back specifically to how like tips or bounties, right, are basically managed, right? There is this tool which is called Assembly, which I suspect that you already know. But basically what this permits, right, is to, have like a tool to basically submit off-chain discussions or documents, right? As you know, like it's impossible to basically log all these discussions or documents with additional information on chain because, of course, it's very, very expensive, right? So basically, there is this tool which has like kind of Web2 infrastructure, which basically what it does is it reads, right, all like the bounties or tips or treasury proposals and gives the opportunity to all the people involved to discuss and push documents or wherever. So for example, here's one example. Is like a very important, right, bounty is basically offer by the Kala Foundation is they are like offering like 100,000 dots, right? And it's basically to look for security bugs in or ML. Okay, this is one of the examples, right? You have like also here the child bounties mapped, which is very good to have like all the discussions, right? So you can have like also all the nested between bounties and child bounties. Here, for example, you have another example of Kusama, which is like a bounty for developing, let's say, a marketing strategy, like this was pushed by Web Media. And well, it's asking this value. And also here you can see that also another child bounties, right, were created. So here you can see like, there is like this person, the one that proposed this bounty, put his information here. So this is where you basically can see all these off-chains like discussions or information about the bounty. Okay. Finally, if we go to tips, right? I don't know if all of you were aware about this one, but if you are not part of a party tech, I think that's the rule. So meaning like you are not part of Web3 or you are not either part of Parity, you can receive tips for pushing PRs into like the substrate code. Okay, so this one, for example, is doing this like this job, these changes, which I will not go through, but there is like basically a bot which is linked right to like the tipping systems. So you push your PR, you put like Polkadot address here. So once it gets approved, like you go through all the discussions. So this like basically gets approved and is merged, right? So basically, then I think it's Sean, the person that is basically handled this, but you got like this bot command, which like basically determines what kind of tipping is giving, right? And then you have this one saying, yeah, okay, so the medium tip was successfully submitted for this user, okay? So if we go and we get this like address, and we go here on governance, treasury tips. This is, of course, Polkadot, right? We can see that here the medium tip was submitted, okay? And it was approved by the council. So basically here, like 20 dots are going to be submitted to this user, right? So all like the council agree on the same value. Okay, so this is like the review of how like in reality this process works, right? And the external tools. Something that I wanted to show right now is going like a little bit into like a demo, okay? And I would like to mention something, like do kind of disclaimer, that this process basically involves like a lot of waiting, right? And a lot of like manual interaction, like going through the council and approve, or I can use like sudo, which is like not the I believe like the purpose, okay, of this like presentation. So what we decided to do is like split like one bounty like in different bounties to show like mostly the status, right? But please consider this bounty, okay? These bounties are just one bounty, okay? I'm not just executed only one bounty because we will need to wait a lot until like all like the steps, are like basically commit, and the stages we go on the next stages. So basically, right, what we will have if we want to submit our own bounty, what we will do is we will go to, first of all, governance bounties. This is the tab where we are right now. So what we are going to do is say, let's say bounty for demo, let's say, right? And let's ask 35,000, okay? And I will use this account, which is bounty proposer, okay? So basically, you will see it in the code, but for submitting a bounty proposal, you need to reserve, okay, or you need to bond an amount, which is basically a fixed amount plus all like the storage that says to, store the description, because this description is stored on chain. Okay, so basically I will submit this one. Okay, and basically what we have here is like the bounty submitted. Okay, the status here is proposed, and the way that this is going to become active, right, is by someone from the council picking this and say, okay, yeah, this is a valid bounty. So yeah, let's go ahead and let's push it. Let's put it for voting. Okay. So what happened here is like then this bounty is on the council hands to decide. And they can, like, for example, start deciding if they say, okay, yeah, I will vote yes on this one, right? Maybe Bob says we don't need, this bounty, okay, and so on. Charlie says yes. So the way as this is like configured, right, is to have at least the half of the council, right, getting agreed on this one. So what I will do right now, okay, is to go back to bounties, and I will basically with sudo, I will just force this to be approved, right? And this is why you get approved. So once this is approved by the council, on the next founding period, right, this will become founded, all right? So I will go to the next step, which is founded, right? So we don't have to wait until this founded period is finished. So once you got this, okay, you are able to propose a curator. I mean, it's not that I'm, as a regular user, have like the role or the permission to basically propose a curator, okay? I mean, I have this button available because one of the developer accounts, which in this case can be Ferdi or let's say Alice, okay, is part of the council, and I have the access to that account. So what I will do right now is to say, okay, yeah, I will set this bounty curator as, the curator for this bounty, and I will set, let's say, like the 10% of this, like bounty. Okay, so I will push it, and what happens here, okay, is like, again, this process, this bounty curator proposal needs to be voted by the council in the same way as it was for basically approving it. So let's suppose that everything gets approved. Let's leave it there. So let's go on the next stage, which is once this was like approved, right? And the curator says, okay, yeah, I will accept this challenge. I will accept this assignment. Okay, so I will to accept, and basically I says, okay, this is going to be my fee, which is not 3.5, okay, it's 3,500, but for some reason the UI shows kilo, which in my opinion, this is a little bit confusing, but it is 3,500, okay? So you can basically accept the curator role here. Okay, this is going to be exactly the same, all right? So basically in here, what is happening is like in the next action, you got like a due date until like basically you report or you basically finish like the bounty, right, for a certain activity. In case that is not finished, you can like request to extend it, right? Extend is expire. So let's go to the next phase, okay? Let's suppose this one is, yeah, let's basically dismiss this one because it's basically the same, but once like the curator said, yeah, okay, I accept this one, what I need to do is to say, okay, who is going to do it? And basically let's reward, okay, that person or that, I don't know, organization who basically commit the work. Okay, so what I will do here is say, okay, I will basically reward this account, this bounty beneficiary, because it basically implemented this, okay? So I submit it, right? And yeah, what's happening is like we got like a period for basically paying out. As this is like a dev, a local testnet, for sure, like we decrease all like the periods, but in reality, this is taking a little bit more. So going to the last phase, once like everything is finished and the payout time is completed, right? Basically, the beneficiary can say, okay, I finished the work, so yeah, I will claim my rewards. Okay, so if I go on the Explorer, I will see like the bounty was claimed. And also here we can see like the beneficiary received like the amount minus like the amount for the curator fees. Okay, here we can see very, very clear how everything was like deducted. And also, right, if we, for example, take the bounty proposer, right, where is it? Yeah, bounty proposer, sorry, with this one. We don't have like, I mean, this was like the proposer for the last one that basically we finished. So we don't see any reserved amount anymore, right? Because once like the bounty is claimed, then this is like all the funds from the proposer are like released. Okay, so this is everything about like bounties. So let's go very, very high level about like child bounties, because as we don't have like a specific UI for child bounties as we got for bounties. So I will not like basically execute the whole process because it would take a lot. And also it's like a little bit hard because, I need to go through like all the steps and execute the extrinsics here. But basically what you need to do is like being like the bounty curator. Okay, you can like add a child bounty where you put here the parent bounty ID. Let's say that your bounty is like, I don't know, 20. Okay, so here you would put 20. And if this is like your first child bounty, I would recommend to leave it like this. And here in the value, you put like the value of the child bounty. Okay, of course, this value cannot exceed the amount, okay, of the parent bounty. So once you add the child bounty, the next step, is to propose the curator. Then once the curator is proposed, this curator needs to accept it. And from now on, then you can like, award a child bounty being like the curator from the child bounty. Okay, this is very, again, high level because it's exactly the same process as we reviewed before, but instead of having like the council like doing like all the selection process for the curator, now is the parent curator the one that chooses the child bounty curator. Okay, so this is everything for curator. Let's go very quick on treasury and tips. Okay, so let's say, for example, I being a tip proposer, okay, and I want to reward someone who, in this case, I put it a tip beneficiary, and basically I wanted to give a tip because this person did a great job on the UI for staking. I know, I'm just like brainstorming. Okay, so I propose the tip. This is basically calling the report awesome that Iker explained before. I don't have any chance to put values in here. Okay, so I got the tip. Okay, so now basically the council is the one that will come here and says, okay, I think this job was very good, so Alice says 200. Cool, nice. Then the next counselor comes and says, for me, this is 300, honestly, because it was a very good job. Okay, nice. It's 250. Okay, we can see like the value here is changed. We go there in a minute. Finally, let's get another one. And let's say Charlie says that 100 is okay. Okay, it's coming back to 200, right? But then finally, Dave says, I think this is like, was a very good job. And for me, this needs to be 400. Okay, what we can see here, okay, is like this is calculating, okay, the median for, you know, the for all like the proposals from this tipping. So basically we will confirm this and we will like basically submit it. So okay, sorry, this was not happening. I will call one more. Let's go on if and put this one, submit tip. Yeah. Cool. Sign and submit. Yeah. So basically, this is like the tip. Yeah, this is like the tip closing, and it's like basically how the tips are managed and are basically transferred, okay, to all the proposers and to the one that basically received the rewards. Something to say is that again, the 20%, okay, so the 80% is sent to the person that receives the tip, and the 20% is for the proposer. So basically, yeah, this is like the let's say the overall for all the process. Okay, and also coming back again to Polka assembly, right? You can have like also another view of all the tips going on here. And sometimes there are some discussions about like, you know, specific tips and so on. So yeah, basically this is like the process, right? And the demo for this. So as I'm like basically reaching like my limit for the time, I will leave Arthur to go through the code.
Okay, so as we are talking about three palettes, I created 3 markdown docs about each of their extrinsics. So let me send to you guys on chat. So yeah, there I can also show it. Oh, how can I? Yeah, it's just like I said, a summary of, you can like see. I try to be very like just getting the main points of each extrinsics, as we don't have that time to show all of them. But yeah, so I decided to go like in a more visual way. So first thing to tell you guys, it's how to set those 3 palettes on our runtime. So here, the laser. Yeah, here we have the treasury config, and then the bounties, child bounties, and the tips. And this is the what we call tightly coupled. So we have all this reference. So yeah, let's one by one. So the first one is a very important one. Every the 3 palettes are like getting the palette ID from the treasury, and that is used to get access to the treasury account ID, and this is the substrate SS59 account ID. So we use it in those palettes to get funds and move to bounties accounts, to giant bounties accounts, and also to tips, to tip an user. And then we have the currency. Everybody is again using it from treasury, and we have these regular operations like just reserve, unreserved funds, and also transfer / and some other. We have the approve origin that the pallet bounties is using from Treasury, and it's used for approve a bounty and also to propose a creator. And yeah, again, it comes from like Iker and Hector showed us. It's come from the console. And we also have the reject origin. Is like reject origin is a interesting thing to say, because it is used to, like, when the console noted that curators may be acting maliciously, or it's just an inactive curator. So they decided as a rejected origin, they decide to slash the curator. So yeah, we use it to unassign a curator to close. Here we heads up that in the child bounties we have the unassigned curator, but when you close, maybe no, not this one. Sorry, yeah, we just slash the parent curator, but also the child curator, and we have the slash tip 2 where you use it. Here we have on slash, and it's set on Polkadot and Kusama to the treasury. On slash is when a slash happen, we just get the funds and move them back to the treasury account. So we use this, and again, every 3 pallets are using it. Here's the heads up that I mentioned wrongly before. When you close a child bounty, we don't move the funds back to the treasury. In fact, we move them back to the parent bounty where they come from in first step. And yeah, so in an opposite way, we have the spend funds inside the treasury palette, and it points to the bounties palette. So inside the treasury, we have this call to spend funds, and inside the palette bounties, we really spend the funds, like we funding every bounties. So yeah, so that is another direction, interesting thing to note. And we also have the max approval that palette bounties use to, like, we have a vector, and the max length is of that bounded vector is 100 on Polkadot. It's just, if you have 101, you need to wait to at least one of that 100 bounties to be paid, so you can create another bounty. And yeah, now between them we have this child bounty manager inside the bounties, and it's used to, like, as a bounty, when you want to pay the bounty or do some operations, we need to access the child bounty. So we have this connection here where we can, like, get the active child bounties and also all the fees of each child bounties from the curator's fee of them. And inside the tips config, we also have these tippers, and it's pointed to the election from palette, and it's mostly the console and how they are elected. And yeah, so this is how we, like, connect all those palettes. Yeah, here as you can see, when you tip, you have to be a tipper. So you have to be a part of the console to really tip someone. And yeah, so talking about the storage, we have this for the bounties palette. Here are the storage entries, and here are some types. So as you can see, we use a bounty index, and it's getting incremented every time someone propose a new bounty. So it's a U32. And then we have the bounty itself. We have this strict with some, like, descriptions of what the bounty is about. And yeah, on child bounty, we have a similar approach. We use the bounty index, but we also have this, just a heads up, that we have this storage double map. So the first key here is the parent bounty index, and the second one is the child bounty index. So you can have a multiple child bounties from the same parent bounty. And yeah, the tips is, as you can see, we use the bounty index here as a pattern to store the bounties and child bounties. And in the tips, we have a different pattern. We hash the reason of the tip and who is who is the tipper. And then we have this hash and we store it, when we use it as the key to the storage. So we don't have a tip index. And another interesting thing here, that on reasons storage, we use the identity is when you decide to store the key directly. So we are using this storage hasher here and not the 2x64 concat. So we just store it directly. Again, the hash of the reason and the who. And yeah, so I mean, this is like the important things that I decided to cover, but maybe we have more time. So yeah, yeah, I think this is an interesting thing. Okay, so Bruno, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question on that identity. What is that identity again? Can you show that?
Okay, yeah, identity here is a storage hasher. Maybe if I, so it's like we have this storage hasher for this identity, and it's like it's just another way to how you decide to store information inside the storage. And when you use this is more like a common guide to use, where we just concat things here, but when you use identity, you just store directly the content of the key. What you set for the key is really the key on the storage. If someone has more things on this, I mean, it's what I got from it.
Cool, thank you.
Welcome. And yeah, so I think, again, getting to the, no, let me, so yeah, if you, on Substrate, the main repo, we are setting it to a unit type. So every time a slash happens, we are just like burning the funds. We are not moving it to anywhere. But on the Polkadot and Kusama, we really want to get the funds back, right? Because we fund a bounty or a tip using the treasury funds, and then a slash happens, so we want to get it back and not burning that amount. So we use the treasury here. I can also show, it's not here. Yeah, because we have here, as you can see, we have like the slash creator. So, and here we really slash the reserved amount, and we have this imbalance. So what should we do with that amount? We just, on Polkadot and Kusama, we just get them back to the treasury account. But on Substrate, we just burn it, like we're dropping it. Because if we follow it, it's just a drop, like dropping it from memory. And yeah, in order to implement that, I have time. Yeah, in order to implement that on Polkadot, I think we have it here too. This is the spend funds on when the treasury call it during the spend period. We can, as you can see, we just fund the account, the bounty accounts with funds coming from the treasury account. And yeah, on treasury, where's my treasury? We have here we have the on slash and how it behaviors, because when we set the treasury palette, it comes to here. So we have this, we are just like getting back in a safer way. So yeah, the account ID, like I said, is just an ID generating during the like hard-coded account ID, and that is the treasury fund. And yeah, I think that's it. Maybe this is the treasury account for Polkadot. And yeah, we have some funds here. And yeah, I think governance 2.0 will help us to spend that in an efficient way, of course, more efficient way. And yeah, so I think that's it. Any questions? So I think that's it.